Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Coffee Talk. I am Diana Badea, obviously, and I am joined with a very good friend, Jordan Diggory. Jordan, introduce yourself. Give the people what they want.
Yes, my name is Jordan Diggory. I am a performer, bartender, jack of all trades, master of a handful, and here with my bestest of pals here. So
Yes. Welcome to Coffee Talk, guys. Jordan just came off of a huge Broadway tour. Well, he's on break right now. He's still on it. You could still go see him. Bruno's even coming to say hi to you.
The bestest boy.
And so we're going to jump in to talk about the tour a little later on. Last week, if you guys listened to the podcast, I had Dominic on, who does like casting, production, performing, all of the above. He has his RAFCO management, RAFCO Productions company. And I asked him questions a lot about like what people should do if they want to get representation, the exact points that they need and where they shouldn't mess up. And so we're going to touch on that when we get into that topic. But let's open it up with what exactly we are drinking, like we do every single episode.
Yes.
And Jordan, I need him to do his cheers. Jordan has these like cheers. What are they called? Are they like chants?
No, I just collect toasts. That's all it is. It's just toasts. But it's. I mean, how filthy am I allowed to get?
You're allowed to get the dirtiest.
Great. I love it. So, my go-to is always staying positive and testing negative.
Amen to that.
Is that one. But the other one, I'll do a wholesome one just to balance it out, which was I used to know how to say this in Irish Gaelic. And I've since forgotten. But it's basically, here's to your coffin. May it be made of the wood of 100-year-old tree I will plant tomorrow. I've always kind of liked that one.
That's sweet.
It's wholesome and fun. Staying positive and testing negative.
Yes, slay. Dano's favorite is the to honor, to live and die with honor. If you can't come in or come honor.
I know that one quite well. I know a different version of that, which is it ends the same way, but it's to honor, get honor, stay honor, and if you can't come in or come honor.
Oh. That's fucking insane.
It's just ridiculous.
Oh my God. I remember the first time you did those. During the pandemic, we'll talk about this.
Yeah. Shout out Dano, by the way, my boyfriend.
Yeah, that is Jordan's boyfriend. So I always like to try and like open up the episodes with an affirmation, because I always think like, who needs another fucking bitch to do a podcast? Like every bitch is every time I get on TikTok, somebody else is doing a podcast and I'm like, let me listen in. And within like 10 minutes, I'm bored. And I'm like, what did I get out of this for 45 minutes to an hour and a half of you talking about your nail color and like sorry. That's the fucking truth. So I always try to do something that you guys can like take away from it. And I'm a spiritual girly. I think like energy is really important. Whatever you put out is what you're going to receive. So I want to do an affirmation that's like about releasing obstacles. So deep breath in. Okay. I am releasing all of my obstacles, physical, mental, emotional, that are getting in the way of my highest success. And once you start like saying that to yourself over and over, I am releasing the obstacles that are getting in my way and halting my success. You start like feeling like, okay, I'm going to release being mad at this person. I'm going to release feeling stressed about that. There's a solution to every problem. I can figure this out. I'm capable. And just say that to yourself today if you feel like nothing's going right for you. Because it's the end of the year.
Yeah.
Times are tough. People are struggling. And speaking about people struggling.
Such struggling actors.
Speaking about it, I felt like Mariah Carey in that moment just now. Like, well, if you don't want to talk about 9/11, have you ever seen that meme?
Yes. Oh my God. Yes, I have. Yeah.
Nobody wants to talk about 9/11, and you hear somebody go, "What?"
Well, it's also, I mean, that feels like a segue to the tour stuff, because Come From Away is, based around the events of 9/11. So if you want to sort of dive into that before we talk about the other things here.
Oh yeah, wait, can we dive into this? Because if I'm being completely honest with you, I actually don't know the plot of Come From Away.
Yeah, so I'll give you sort of the blurb about it, which is that we like to say that it's not a 9/11 show, it's a 9/12 show. And so the deal is, when September 11th happened, the United States airspace was shut down. No planes could come in, no planes could go out. And there's a small town in Newfoundland, Canada called Gander. And this is a town that had the largest one of the largest airports in North America, because planes would stop either post-transatlantic flight, pre-transatlantic flight, pre-cross country, or post-cross country to fuel up. So this was like a large airport with a refueling station, all of that stuff. So planes would come in, they'd fuel up, they'd leave. And that was kind of the whole thing. Town's only 9,000 people. And so when 9/11 happened, 38 planes got grounded in Gander, and the town's
Wow.
population spiked by 7,000 people in the
Wow.
span of about 6 hours. So the story of Come From Away is about the events of 9/11 and more importantly, the 5 days that followed, where this town literally opened up its doors. People were putting people up in their houses. They converted gyms and schools into shelters, and they fed people, and all these, and like lasting relationships were formed from this. So the show is done by 12 actors. Playing, I think it's upwards of like 40 different roles.
Wow.
It's nuts. The minimum that anybody plays is 3 people.
Wow.
And so it's this kind of mishmash. So some people are represented directly, like Claude the mayor, and this British guy named Nick. And then some people are composites of other people, sort of put together and then represented by one person. It's a gorgeous show, and selfishly, you should all go see it.
Yeah. So Jordan is on tour for that right now. What is like a Broadway tour like? What is it like traveling? Like, give us the deets.
Yes.
And also, like, is it like theater camp where people are like making out and hooking up and fucking?
No, not anymore. It's
They have regulations
the
now.
short answer. Well, so the short answer is yes. Sometimes it's like that. Mine is not, for a couple of reasons. One, it's a little bit about half. I'm right smack. I'm 30, so I'm right smack in the middle age wise in terms of the age spread of the cast. A lot of the people on my tour are married, and are in like deeply committed relationships. But tour life is just kind of crazy, just because of the way that you move around so much. And I'm also, I should mention, I'm a standby, so I cover 4 different tracks. So I have 4 different roles out of 12 in my head at any given time. Right now, I've only learned 3 so far. I don't want to oversell
Standbys
myself.
are
It's crazy.
You guys are like heroes. It's just, it blows my mind. It's crazy to me.
It's nuts, and it's a different kind of acting than I've ever had to do before, and it requires a level of compartmentalization that I haven't really like achieved until now. So
explain. Maybe we should explain what a standby is for people that aren't
Sure.
like theater people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what you may know as an understudy, or somebody who goes on for a lead character, or for what's called a principal, when they're sick. Understudies typically will go on for 1 role, maybe 2, but usually 1. And then there are swings who will cover multiple tracks for ensemble roles. If you have a show that doesn't have a delineation between principal cast and ensemble, you generally have what are called standbys, who will go on for a couple of different roles. It's a little bit kind of granular. It's a little bit sort of like specific. If you were to call me an understudy, I wouldn't get upset about it. If you were to call me a swing, I wouldn't get upset about it. The official term that we use for this production in particular is standby. But that's all kind of minutia. You can say understudy. It's fine.
I feel like it's so interesting too, because the people that like listen to this podcast or watch my stuff, I never know exactly why they're watching.
Mm-hmm.
And then every now and again, I'll get like,
Because you're well spoken and gorgeous and fabulous, and make good coffee. It's,
is it good?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. See, you
And
heard it here first, folks.
And my partner turned me into a coffee snob. So like, yeah, it's
yes.
I still love me a bodega coffee, but now she's like, you can get like the citrus notes in this one. I'm like, yes, dear.
Oh, see, I'm not at that level, but
Barely I am. I'm more like booze is more my thing. We'll talk about that later.
Yes. So, but no, I never really truly know like why exactly people are like coming to like my socials or my podcast or my music, and then they'll reach out to me and they'll say like something super random, like, oh, I found you because I realized like you have a real love for theater, or oh my god, I love watching you around New York City, or oh, I love when you sing like theater even though you do other things, or you talk to this person about. It's really interesting to me, so I feel like we have a very wide audience. That's why I like to really over explain.
Yeah.
Because also I think people underestimate just how deep the art and performance world goes. That's why it's so undervalued. That's why people think it's so stupid and silly. And
you
like,
see, and the funny thing is that like when you, the stupid and silly thing, I don't even actually disagree with that. I do a silly thing.
Right?
I play
Yeah.
theater in and of itself can be incredibly important. It can say incredibly things. I also do play dress up for a living.
That's kind of true.
I go around, I do my silly little show, and if I get to touch people or move people in some way, and if you leave that theater feeling happier, if you leave that theater having learned something, if you walk out of that theater a marginally better person than you were when you walked in, I feel like I've done my job.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is sort of the gratifying part, because I've done the dumb stuff too. I did cruise ships for 2 years. That is like, and I wasn't doing like the shows on the like book shows on cruise ships. I was doing like the silly little song and dance stuff. I was singing Freddie Mercury and stuff like that. Like, it was while wearing like spangly purple outfits. You could go to my website. There's still pictures of that. It's, oh my God, awful.
I kind of love how empowered you are within that, though.
I am going to tell you I'll tell you my silly mishap story, just to kind of undercut the seriousness of things.
Oh my God,
in a little bit. But yeah, it's to me, the important thing is just to affect people in some way or another. And if you walk out being like, yep, I feel the same as when I walked in, well, then I screwed up.
Yeah. I felt that with a few shows. There's some shows where I've seen it, I'm like, wow. But even, I think what's also super powerful is like, there's been shows that like weren't Broadway, they weren't in front of a massive stage, but let's say they're in Broadway trained people.
Sure.
And they could be in a dive bar, or they could be anywhere, and it's still, it gives you a feel. You can get that feeling other places, and that's why art's so powerful. Like, you can walk in someplace and spend, $600, $700 on a ticket and maybe not feel anything. Or you can walk into a dive bar and be like, oh my God, my life has changed. But also,
sometimes they're really drunk when they do that. So,
Whoa, on Broadway?
No, never on Broadway. Though Elaine Stritch famously did do 2 shots before every show. But
I feel like that'd be me.
I was just talking about when you came to see drunk musicals, but
Oh my God. I loved that. Jordan did drunk musicals, and I thought it was absolutely insane. That's why I always shout them out, because I'm like, it is really such a fun time. It makes it so fun to witness.
It's a good time. But in terms of like silly stuff, I was doing a Broadway style review on I think this was my second cruise ship contract, and we were doing a section from the Full Monty. And if you don't know the Full Monty, the long story short is a bunch of guys decide to become male strippers. It's a little bit more complicated than that, but that's the one sentence blurb about the Full Monty.
So we're doing more men do that.
Seriously. So we're doing the last song, which is called Let It Go, which is the strip scene. And so the way that my costume is built is it's my personal underwear, and then we have tan briefs to like simulate flesh, because this is a family show. White tearaway boxers, blue tearaway pants, shirt, tie, hat, etc., etc. So opening night of the show, everything's going great. Tie comes off, jacket comes off, shirt comes off, everything goes. And when the big key change comes, where we're supposed to pull the pants off and then throw them into the pit, then we run around. It's called the passerelle, like catwalk style thing. Come back, stand in front of like a Mylar strip curtain, and then as the ending note comes down, you pull the boxers off and jump behind the curtain as the lights come down. So it looks, oh my God, they're naked, except we're not. We have the flesh-colored briefs and all of that on. So opening night rolls around, everything's going fine. I go, big key change comes, I pull the pants, and the boxers go with them. Here's the kicker. I didn't notice.
No!
So I was so in it that I was like, they're gone. I'm running around this passerelle with my cheeks out, and the audience,
and you're like, I'm doing great.
Literally, no, but like that's it. I know you're like, you're dogging on me, but like literally, I was like, wow, they're really into it. And I get back to the Mylar curtain, the hat comes off, I go to grab the boxers, and they are not there. And I just go, and jump behind the curtain and run. There is footage of it somewhere on a Royal Caribbean server. And
oh my God, I completely forgot about the intel that it was on the cruise ship. I completely forgot about that detail.
If it ever sees the light of day, it won't be the worst thing of me that's on the internet.
Honestly, I'm not to prey on your downfall, but I feel like it would be, I'm praying for it to see the light of day.
Listen.
Let it see the light of my day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Not for you guys. Not for free, anyway.
Not for free. Yeah,
I am.
That could be your intro to OF.
I'm bribable.
I I am bribable.
Jesus.
That's a good t-shirt. I'm bribable.
Seriously.
Right? That's a good slogan.
Bribable, unkillable.
Right.
Seriously.
So we also wanted to chit chat about you know, but we were saying, you know, people are struggling before.
Mm-hmm.
People are having a tough time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like when like us as a masses have tough times, it's hard for us to have empathy that have, you know, for people that have
misfortunes happen to them.
Or just people that just naturally have so much and then they have a misfortune like, oh, well, must be nice to, you know, be okay. Unlike us, it's fine.
We're talking about CEOs who get gunned down in New York.
And I just think it's really interesting. Like the CEO of United Healthcare got gunned down.
Yeah.
Okay. And the response has been, for lack of better terms, comical. Like,
yeah,
people think it's hysterical. The memes that are, I mean, it is kind of pretty morbid, but if you really think
Yeah.
about it, it's
and the thing is, like, I have to do that thing, and I genuinely do believe it, but in order to make myself not look like a horrible person so that I can actually talk about this, it's loss of life in any capacity is awful.
awful. Yeah.
It is not a good thing that a person got gunned down in the street.
Mhm.
It is a bad thing that this happened, period.
Mhm.
That being said, the offset is that this person was probably directly responsible, or directly or indirectly responsible for thousands of healthcare related deaths across the country, especially because that company went to an AI model that had a 90% error rate.
I did not know.
You know about this? Yeah. So they went to an AI rejection module. So basically, like when you submit your claim, normally you would have like an insurance claim worker go through and say, okay, this person needs this procedure and this medication because they have this condition, which may or may not be covered under our policies or whatever. They did away with that. At least in some capacity, and went to an AI model that then basically did all of the stuff that person would do. Except that AI model had something like and please fact check me, because I'm not as, I don't have as concrete numbers as I would like to, but had something like a 90% failure rate of like denying people who should have been accepted for things. And when you don't, like, I have really strong negative feelings about AI sort of generally. I think there are very few situations in which it can be helpful, and I think it's a net negative on society. But especially when it comes to like rejection like that, and if you don't have fail-safes, like human fail-safes or other fail-safes in order to prevent that sort of, like, you have to have like that secondary level of backup. Otherwise, like, what are we doing here?
Right. I mean, if we have a secondary, if we have a 2 tier login for my Gmail account, like we need a 2 tier for fucking healthcare and health insurance.
I mean,
like,
to speak nothing of, I mean, universal healthcare for all for sure, but like,
yeah, I could stream that from the rooftops all day, but still some frat boys in some ugly ass fucking room that they share with 6 people will be like, people are just gonna get robbed then, and you know the taxes are gonna go up. Honey, I don't think you need to worry about taxes. Yeah, you don't know how to wipe between your ass cheeks. Please.
It's also just like, I mean, we talk a lot about like the raising taxes and all of that, and there's all these memes that go around like, if you know what a walk-in fridge looks like, you don't have to worry about tax breaks. If you know to like sit on a milk crate while you're eating your family meal, like, you don't need to worry about the tax increases and all of that. And ultimately, I think what it is that, you know, even with private health insurances, we still pay into a system that then ultimately pays for other people's health care.
100%.
It is still, it's collective health care by another name, with like a lot of middlemen who then sometimes tell me that I don't need healthcare. And I've been really lucky that I have not needed a ton of healthcare related services throughout my life. But I would rather, and I feel the same way about food stamps. I feel the way about same way about social services in general, which I would rather pay triple the amount and have any number of people abuse the system in order to allow one person to get the help that they need. I think the net benefit is far outweighs the potential for scammery. Hi, Bruno. Yeah, you want universal healthcare toys, Troy.
Oh my God, yeah. Let's include dogs, because this pet insurance is another monster too.
Yeah, I believe that.
This pet insurance, you know what's worse about pet insurance? Pet insurance, you have to pay everything outright. So if he needs a $5,000 operation, I have to pay the $5,000 and then I submit the claim.
Oh, that's awful.
It's horrific. And that's how all pet insurance is done. But I feel like people are super uneducated on that. Bruno's about to get tangled in all the wires. You big bootied boy.
He made it.
But I feel like people are really so uneducated about it. And it always blows my mind because if you really look at how much money gets taken out of your paycheck when you have healthcare through your employer, I'm like, you're not going to be paying that much more in taxes, babe.
Exactly.
Like, I do like this side gig. Sometimes my friend is the COO of this company where you do like, I used to do like grown up and me, mommy and me music classes and art classes. And like, I used to do it regularly, like during the pandemic for extra money. But now like, I just kind of do like a birthday party here or there just from just extra play cash.
Beer money.
Like, yeah, exactly. Like every 2 weeks, I'm like, oh my God, I just got paid like $300 randomly. I forgot about that. You know what I mean? So I just started thinking about that and I completely forgot where I was going with this. But the people that work there, who work part-time or full-time, they offer now healthcare. And I was like, oh, are you going to take it? And they were like, I don't know. Cause it's like, you know, $600, $700 out of my paycheck every month. And they don't get paid a lot.
Yeah.
And like people can't afford to get that taken out of their paycheck sometimes. Like,
yeah, it's weighing the cost benefit for like the realities versus the services that you pay into that you might need somewhere down the line. You can weigh that cost benefit. And that's totally fine. I don't love that this is turning into a financial podcast, but whatever.
No, it's okay. It's okay. We literally talk about everything. Seriously. It's totally fine.
But
then we're gonna jump back into this guy who just got unalived on the street.
Seriously, and then like, you know, so to weigh that against it is totally fine, and obviously simplification is sort of the better answer, at least in my opinion. And so to be able to have the option to have universal health care, if you want to have your private health insurance, I'm still like nominally fine with like private health insurances existing. If you want to do that, then fine. If you want to pay that money, go with God. But you know, it's I think we have to work it from the bottom up instead of the top down.
Yeah.
Trickle down economics doesn't work in any way, shape, or form.
Doesn't work.
Really doesn't. Everything bad about this country started with Reagan. Just saying.
Literally, so many people right now are like, I can't take like the shock factor. The amount of people on the news that are like, you know, or I would say in the media, not on the news because the news like isn't a real place. So there's people that are so shocked that like our generation has no feeling essentially for this guy that was gunned down. I'm seeing people being like, oh my God, like it's so horrible, like have a conscience. And they're just getting ratioed in the comments because it's like, we've been exhausted by this service that this man has headed. And the next day, from what I saw, it could have been a lie, but from what I saw, it looked like that position was available on LinkedIn.
I think that one was unfortunately
like that was like a meme.
I think that unfortunately was nonsense.
It was nonsense.
I wish it was real, but apparently they did start his meeting on time.
Which is crazy.
The reason he was in town was for this like investors meeting, and they apparently only cut it like moderately short when they found out he was done. Again, fact check me, please, but like, it's just ridiculous.
I mean, well, now you get a taste of what it's like.
And I think the interesting thing about it is that the reaction is, of course, like keyboard warriorism like extends to having more bravado on both sides, both from like a fight perspective and also from a comedy perspective. Yeah. So you can say like horrible, funny stuff that you wouldn't necessarily say otherwise. But I think that the majority of people who hear about this would have the same thoughts about it that I did when we started this line of conversation, which is that like nobody should be getting gunned down in the street. We shouldn't have that kind of violence anywhere. We also shouldn't have, you know, institutional violence as perpetrated by healthcare companies and all of that. Right. But that being said, when you have that sort of insulation of privilege and that insulation of money, okay, you know, you don't really get to complain when we make fun of you.
I think that it's kind of a rude awakening for like a lot of, you know, upper class elitists that they're like, wow, I think they just don't understand that how exhausted we truly are. Like they really don't. They don't get it. They think that people like really actually have savings. They think that people really aren't. It's not going to hurt them that bad. Yeah. But when you're being squeezed from literally every angle, that's why we're like, we don't really care. And that's why people are making jokes of like, who's next? Let's dox the next person to freak them out a little bit.
Yeah, and
there are some people who are obviously probably very serious, but then again, this is a country that has guns, so I mean, whose fault is that anyway? So I just think it's really it was sinister to watch because the guy had a silencer on the gun, which seems really crazy to me.
That was the amount of like actual footage of what amounts to a snuff film that I've seen on the internet is a little bit shocking to me.
What is this snuff?
Like
snuff
a video of somebody getting killed.
Oh, is that? Oh, I don't know.
Yeah. But it's essentially like, you know, the amount of news organizations that I have seen that have showed like half the frame of him like pointing the weapon, and not like the actual effect of it. But then I saw the full video on Twitter.
Oh yeah.
The full video is on multiple things on Twitter, and I saw it, like I've seen it all over the place, and I'm like, it's crazy that this full video is out there. It's interesting that we've become that desensitized to it, but it's also just kind of like.
We are so desensitized to it.
To violence in particular, which is wild.
But I feel like it's kind of specific to like our country.
I don't know that I agree with that.
I feel like when it comes to like shootings and things like that, seeing it on the news.
Shootings all back. Violence in general,
not violence,
no, but shootings 100%.
Because we have so many that we just kind of say it in passing, whereas like something that's just like, oh, it gets thrown into like our 6 o'clock news is like national news for like other developing countries a lot of the time.
Exactly.
You know, that to me where I'm like, that's insane. But listen, we're hurting. It's Christmas time. I feel really bad for him and his family. My love goes out to them. But I think this might be a wake-up call for a lot of people that are really underestimating how much everybody is really hurting.
Yeah.
Because it's the disparagement. Who said this? Somebody said that when there gets to a point where there's like too much difference in wealth, like there's too big of a wealth gap, this is when things start happening to certain societies.
Yeah, I know.
Like, obviously, that's like fear mongering or whatever, but
sure. But you know, there's always been a tipping point where, you know, the bourgeoisie gets rebelled against, and you know, there's going to be people in your comments calling me a communist, and they're right. But
I honestly this is we're all about free speech here for the conservatives. We're all about free speech, guys.
Hey, listen, freedom of speech does not mean freedom from consequences.
I keep saying this, and people don't understand it. They don't get it. So I got my ass like reamed out incorrectly, by the way. You're never going to beat me on this topic. When I posted something online talking about because let's talk about like the internet fucking keyboard warriors, like especially when it comes to like politics and you know, memifying things, serious issues. I did like a video talking about like if Conor McGregor wasn't a white millionaire.
Oh, I saw that video. Yeah.
Wasn't a white millionaire that had power that a lot of men envied, like you guys would be talking about this a lot more. People went in my comments so hard. They're bringing up like they want to talk policy. They're trying to defend this man so hard. I'm like, you're defending a man that literally beat the shit out of an elderly man. And you've seen everything you need to see from this man.
Yeah.
Everything you need to see. But people are in the comments and, you know, they think that they're the next congressperson.
It's also just like, I mean, the defense of it and for what? What's the end game here? It's, you know, defending elder abuse and women's rights and all of that. Those have an end game.
Right.
And it is collective liberation. And it is freedom, and it is safety, and it is community, and it is unity building, and all of that has tangible goals and tangible end games that you can work towards. Defending this guy's what exactly? Defending his right to beat
ego
on people outside of a ring?
His ego.
Dude, what's the goal here?
I don't get it.
He's not gonna pay your bills.
But that's what I feel like people do. Like when people defend like Elon Musk and they like want to suck his dick on Twitter. When like people, especially like the like,
you'd be having such a good day, and then you see a Cybertruck, and it's like my day gets ruined by those things.
It's crazy, but people really go so ham, like defending billionaires, and I'm like, I would never. I'm like, great. Even if somebody like worked their way from the bottom up and earned it, I'm like, okay.
There's no such thing as an ethical billionaire. I don't care who it is. There's no such. Billionaires are built on the backs of exploited people. Period.
And I in my mind, I'm like, I could never imagine loving and wanting to defend someone so deeply.
I don't love anything that much.
Whom I've never met. Literally anything. Like I could never imagine that. And the way these people are like obsessed with like Elon Musk and obsessed with like, you know, Trump and whoever, like it blows. What is it like to be unemployed? I wouldn't know. Really, I don't know.
I've been unemployed and I've never done that.
Right,
so, like,
right. Unemployed of the mind. Your mind is just simply vacant.
Literally.
Your mind is on
just a ping pong ball rattling around an empty cup.
Oh my God, it makes me want to absolutely drink I remember during the pandemic when all this crazy shit was happening, we drank so much. Jordan came over to my apartment.
You think that's
Jordan came over to my apartment, was like, I'm coming over and I'm going to make you and Dano a bunch of cocktails. And I was like, well, you're about 10 minutes too late. Let's get it moving. Where are you? Let's go.
I was living a lot closer at that time, too. I was just living crosstown.
Exactly. And we were just getting super, super fucked up because like the way the world was working. Wasn't a great time.
And also, like, for the record, I joked about Dano being my boyfriend earlier, but do you want to tell the story of like the first time he came home?
Him.
So basically, I was sitting there. Dano had been at work. And I had beat him home, and so Diana and I were saying, I think we were like on our second drink already or something like that.
Yeah.
And so we're just shooting the shit as we do. By the way, this podcast is just kind of a representation of what like our normal reality is. This is just, we just decided to do it in front of cameras today.
Exactly.
And so we he walks in, and of course, being the wonderful boyfriend that he is, walks over and, you know, gives her a very chaste smooch. And then I think I just went, and he just walked over and smooched me on the cheek, and we've been besties ever since. God bless him.
You know, Dano is just a loving human being.
He is. That meant he has a lot of love within his heart. God love him.
Yeah, for real.
May we all feel safe in his biceps. I said what I said.
Jordan, you're kind of like would you call yourself? You wouldn't call yourself a mixologist or a bartending extraordinaire. More like you're like a sommelier of like spirits.
No, not bartender, please.
Okay. Fine.
So what it is that my favorite thing that was ever told to me, I can't remember who said it. It was because that person took it from someone on the internet. It might have been Morgan Robinson at Joyface.
Okay.
But
I love Joyface.
Yeah.
Joyface is a place in the city that plays disco music, and
it's super great. Joyface and the High Lot. You should go to Aaron Schreier and at High Lot and Morgan Robinson at Joyface. It said a mixologist is a bartender who can't fight.
Oh.
I was like, I hate the word mixologist. It's so needlessly pretentious. If you want to call yourself a mixologist, have fun. But to me, I am a person who tends a bar, and therefore I am a bartender.
Fuck
and that's, you know, what it is. But
I feel like people don't get that. Like New York City, when I explain to people, like, when you come to the city, like there's certain restaurants or bars that you should work at, and they're like, yeah, but like, will you make money? I'm like, no, you don't get it. It's a different type of culture here than it would be in like your small town. Like bars and restaurants here are very much their own industry and culture, and it's not like a side job or side gig. Like people, these are serious career servers, waiters, bartenders. You know what I mean? And listen, they're making more money than your mother and father. Like
seriously, and there are people in this city, especially in like not even necessarily the high end bars per se,
right?
But there are plenty of like bars that maybe don't have like the polished aesthetic, but have like cocktail programs that will knock your socks off.
Hell yeah.
And those places are pulling down bank. When I was working at Joyface, I was doing 1 day a week there. I worked there very briefly, but when I was going to say,
I never knew you even worked there.
I was there for like 2 months.
Oh, okay.
It was long story short, I was supposed to be helping to open. There was potential that I was going to be helping open High Lot, and then Omicron happened, and so that whole project got pushed back, like really, really far. But that's neither here nor there. So I worked at Joyface for a really short time, and I was still pulling down like a decent amount of money. If that was the only job I worked 1 day a week, I could at the time have afforded my rent.
Yeah.
And I would have been, you know, cut some corners, but I could have done it on 1 day a week.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
Like career bartending is something that is generally kind of only possible, in my opinion, in larger cities, and please correct me. But I know a ton of people who are colossal heavy hitters in the bar world. And the ironic part is that I have managed to build. I've been really lucky in that despite not being a career bartender myself, I managed to align myself with a lot of really like tastemakers and like movers and shakers in the bar industry. Like 90% of whom are women.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Women.
Like women and non-binary folks. And,
don't you and
men.
and I know? Don't we have a mutual friend who's like a crazy amazing bartender? How do we know her?
We're talking about
Jin.
Oh, Jin Cho.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I knew Jin from
Jin just
from
did that show
Barbelly.
with Bobby Flay, right?
She's still on it. Yeah, she's still
Yes.
doing that. So Jin does that the show with Bobby Flay. She's their resident bartender. I think she's actually called the resident mixologist on that show, but I'm not 100%. But Jin and I know each other just from like the bar scene and from also like the music scene because
yes,
she's
a great music producer.
But she is somebody who has done a really great job of like making a face for herself and making a name for herself in that, and that she's becoming like very recognizable and doing a lot of really cool stuff and making sort of well-developed cocktails and intelligent cocktails accessible to people who don't live in places where those sorts of things are available.
Yes. And also Jin is like one of those people where there are just some people when they do a job in New York, they also just become like their own brand around that.
Yeah.
Like people know Jin as a, you know what I mean? And she's been in the scene for a long time. So like you kind of become a socialite of your passion, which I think is like also part of the job. I mean, as performers, we get this because it's like you yourself are your business, your brand. And so like you kind of becoming this socialite around, it also helps you continue to do your job in cooler places. Yeah. I met Jin years ago, but and the industry, I could talk about like connections in New York City for forever because it's such a vital piece of the city. Which always gets me angry. I don't know if you feel like this, but it gets me angry. Like actually viscerally pisses me off when people are like, I just didn't like New York. Like I couldn't make any friends or like I couldn't find something that works for me. That's what I'm saying. People complain about the dumbest shit when it comes to New York, and it actually makes me so angry because it's so easy to make friends here.
That one in particular has sort of always been interesting to me. And this was a conversation I was having with somebody on the tour pretty recently, and it was about the ideas of community and about building your community. And it was that a lot of, and maybe this is just a post-pandemic thing, and maybe this is my jaded like millennial self talking, but it seems to me that people are desperate for community and unwilling to create or engage in one. Yeah. To the point where they want their community to not just come to them, but to come to like their bedroom. Yeah. And to like not have to leave the house, to not have to put any work in, to not want to do these things, especially like, because I'm a hardcore kid. Anybody who's watching this visually will probably recognize the Oldham shirt. It's a knocked loose shirt. But the way that you build the community in the hardcore world is by going to shows. Right. The way you build the community in the bar world is by going to bars. And spending time. And that's not to say that you have to drink to go to bars. The explosion of low and no alcohol cocktails in the last couple of years is insane. St. Agrestis, which is a brand an Amaro brand in Brooklyn, makes a whole series of non-alcoholic products that started with a bottle of cocktail called the Phony Negroni, which is a zero alcohol Negroni. They've since expanded it to mezcal Negronis and espresso martinis. All of these taste like cocktails and have no alcohol in them. And for some people who just don't want to drink, that's totally fine. If you're in recovery, that may not be for you. Whatever reason you choose not to drink, that is entirely your business. I'm not one of those people who's like, you shouldn't ever step in a bar if you don't drink. No, go to bars, experiment with flavors, enjoy the stuff, pay for the mocktails because they take as much, if not more effort to create than some of the cocktails do. But by the same token, you can still go out and have fun and enjoy these things and not come home intoxicated. That's totally fine.
You know, it's so interesting. Also, like, when we say pay for the mocktails, we're talking about mocktails that have, like, 4 or 5 different ingredients in them.
Yeah, and, like, infusions and techniques that are put into them.
Infusions and techniques, because I feel like there are some places that are charging. Well, people are like, oh, mocktails are scams because you're just putting, like, seltzer and cranberry and a lime in it and calling it a cosmopolitan.
Sometimes they are scams.
Sometimes, but...
The really good ones are not scams. The really good ones are awesome.
Yes. No, they're so good. My mother is sober for the first time in my life, and she's sober for 2 years, which is crazy.
Congratulations.
And my mom was always just like a functioning alcoholic, and so it was like very hard to differentiate, because like I love my mom. I never had like a bad relationship with her, which is what made that such a difficult thing. And I never thought in my lifetime like my mother would be sober. Like it got to a point where I was like, I don't think I've ever really said this, but I was like really preparing for her death, and I was like, I don't really know how I'm gonna live in the world without her. Like I don't get it. But she became sober, and she said the hardest part about becoming sober and like going into recovery is like you feel like you don't know how to be in a community, because you would go to a bar, and when you go to a bar you're having a great time and you feel loose and you feel fun. She was like, trying to reinvent that in different ways is the exact thing that keeps people from doing it.
It is very tough. Getting into recovery is hard.
Yeah.
Staying in recovery is hard.
Yeah.
And it is something that I infinitely respect to people who have gone that route and who stay the course if it's healthy for them, and if it's something that they need to do in their life. More often than not, people talk about bartenders as if we are only purveyors of alcohol, and if you're not here to buy drinks, we're not interested in you. If you are there in my bar and you are sober, I will work with you to find something that you can drink, that you want to drink, that you're going to be happy drinking and having fun for it, that you enjoy. All I care about is that you're having a good time and that you're safe.
Right. Honestly, like it's such a great time too. I know, like, I feel like sobriety is really kind of, not like sobriety is a trend, but it does kind of feel that way, because in the past, like, everybody was always getting fucked up. So now I'm feeling like I'm hearing and seeing so many people just choose to be sober without having an issue.
Yeah,
because
there
is so
trend.
many outlets now. You know what I mean? Like, there's that, and there's so many sober bars popping up. There's a sober bar in East Village.
Yes. There's been a handful of them that have popped up. So.
Yeah. So it's like a perfect time to do it. And but I feel like bartending it is a skill, and that's why people really love it. It is a community, especially in New York. I mean, New York, you just have the best time. Like, there's nothing like a good ass bar crawl here, because then you feel like invincible. I'm like, I'll walk 2 miles to the next bar. I don't care. Like, I got some liquid courage. I'll go. I don't mind.
Seriously, the booze coat or the booze jacket is very real.
Yeah.
As one of our greatest prophets once said, a hoe never gets cold. So I would know. Anyway.
Yeah. But how do you balance like performing and bartending, and like, do you have like one that's like more of a love for you, or
performing, hands down?
Yeah.
So,
that's what I figured.
So bartending is effectively a hobby that I managed to monetize.
Yeah.
My running joke is that I had to justify being a drunk, so I became a nerd.
There we go.
Which was just like I learned a ton about booze, and I read a ton of books and talked to a lot of people who are a lot smarter than I am about that. I was really lucky in that I had and continue to have a mentor in both the performing and the bar worlds. Her name is Joanna Carpenter. You should look her up, because she's amazing. She's currently in the Christmas Spectacular at Rockefeller.
I was gonna say that name sounds like a performer name.
Yeah, Joanna was in the revival of Sweeney Todd on Broadway as a swing, and is now at the Christmas Spectacular.
Oh, yeah.
And also like ran bar programs and was a liquor rep in New York for a very long time. And I did anti-voter suppression work with her during the 2020 election. So like we went down to Atlanta. Joanna is the baddest human that has ever existed. She is incredibly smart and incredibly intelligent. And
what do you have to cry about?
He wants to know Joanna. I get it. No, it's wonderful. But she has been so gracious with her time and so gracious with her knowledge, and her activism and her bandwidth as a human, especially for helping me do things with my career and things like that, helping me understand how to navigate these spaces and how to achieve something resembling a work-life balance. I'm definitely a performer first, but again, because I've been able to align myself with these people who are monsters in both of my industries, I'm able to sort of pull from the best aspects of who they are, and then hopefully to be able to turn around and give them credit and to do honor to their work.
Hell yeah.
And what they do in these spaces.
That's such a huge kudos too. And like a lot of being able to master like our own crafts comes from working with our peers and kind of seeing like how they are able to master their lives, you know. I look at what you do and I'm like, okay, sometimes when I'm feeling down, I'm like, Jordan's doing like 12 things right now. I got to get my ass up. Like I got to get up.
It is funny because I have to couch myself against that sometimes, which is
yes,
like,
no, that's so important.
It's not the doing too much period. It's doing too much to be healthy
right
within yourself. Like I got off this tour and like I talked about, I hit the ground running. I've only been home for 4 days and I hit the ground sprinting.
Yeah.
So I'm desperately trying to, in this month that I'm home before I go back on the road, trying to claw some time for myself. And because I am a capital E extrovert, my like recovery time looks like stuff that drains other people's batteries.
100%.
I go out and that's how I like, you know, recharge. Like I'm going to walk out of this not feeling like I did work, but feeling like I got to spend, 2 hours with a friend who I haven't seen in like 4 months.
And honestly, I'm the same way because I get recharged by being with other people. Like I get drained by being alone, which is really difficult because like I work in this studio for many hours a day. And like, especially right now, like creating and doing like the podcast in here and things like that, I want to get to a point where I don't have any of my work in my house because I prefer to like go to a coffee shop and have a small conversation or like go like I'm very much like you where I feel recharged doing things and you have to like remind yourself, no, it's like when you forget to eat. It's like when you forget to eat because you're just like moving around so much and you're having so much fun and you're doing all these things and nothing feels like work and you're not thinking about food and then you're like, I have to remind myself to refuel. Rest is the same way. I got to remind myself to rest. Like totally get that.
And it's also work-life separation is something that I've sort of been a champion of ever since I worked on cruise ships because there is like you want to talk about no work-life separation.
Yeah, that's all work, right?
There is no work-life separation on a ship. You live with the people you work with. You eat, sleep, play, sleep, and like. Wait,
so cruise ships have that type of
cruise ships 100% have that type of thing. Tours not so much. Cruise ships there's what I always like to say is every rumor you've heard about cruise ship workers is true. Yes, even that one. I have stories on stories and I won't tell them here because it's not my business to tell. But Do
you recommend like people performing on cruise ships? Did you enjoy it? Did you like it?
It is not for everybody.
When we say working, we mean performing.
Yes. So I enjoyed my time on ships. I did 2 years collectively on ships over 5 years. And I had a great time. What I always say is the money is great, the travel is great, the people are great, and you'll go slowly insane while you do it. Because imagine living in a closet, never leaving your job. My room had no windows. My cabin was smaller than this room we're sitting in, and I shared it with another person.
Shut up.
On my last ship. My first one, I had my own room.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was a whole thing. But
you don't get a window?
Nope. Dance captain gets a window.
Are you guys at like the bottom of the boat?
Yeah, basically. Decks 1 and 0, generally speaking, are where the crew live.
Is that like underwater?
0 is.
That's scary.
Yeah, it's fun.
Oh God.
You can hear on nights if you're like on one of the outer ones, you can hear like the booming of the waves against the bottom. It's actually kind of relaxing. The best sleep I've ever gotten in my life was on cruise ships.
Honestly, I feel like I would like that because I also love the noise here. Like for me, my old apartment was right up against Broadway. When we say Broadway, we mean Uptown Broadway, not Broadway where the shows are.
Yeah.
We mean the Broadway.
Diana and I used to live around the corner from each other.
Exactly.
So
Exactly. And like my window was right up against the street and there's like people partying till like 3 a.m. out in the street and they're playing Bad Bunny till like freaking 3 a.m. and I was sleeping like a baby, like with the sirens going and people fighting. I'm like,
if it is too quiet somewhere, I can't sleep anymore.
That's how I feel at my parents' house now. I cannot sleep in my bedroom. I'm like, this feels creepy. I feel like I'm also just like being watched by like ghosts of my memories and also loved ones. I'm like, I don't know. It gets really spooky.
Oh my God.
Really quick, I wanted to ask you, because I asked Dominic this, and I would really love to get your opinion on this. What do you think that there are like 3 or 5 things that people need in order to get booked? Because you get booked a lot and you do a lot. So what do you think?
Less than some and more than others, I would say. But
yeah, but you're on a Broadway tour.
What do you need to get booked? It's interesting.
Let me reframe the question.
Yeah.
What would you say has worked for you?
That's probably a better way to put it.
You know?
What has worked for me
If you've changed anything.
I've definitely, my attitude towards auditioning from because I moved to the city 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And my attitude and methods of auditioning have changed so wildly since then. When I got here, I was analyzing everything. I was like, what's going to be the perfect song to sing for this? What's the perfect look that I'm going to do in the morning? I'm going to get up an extra hour early so I can do all this stuff. And now I'm like rolling out of bed, and I just kind of like, I changed what song I was going to do. I had an audition 2 days ago, and I changed what song I was going to do while I was waiting in line to go into the room. And I was like, oh, no, wait, this is a better idea. I'm going to do this one instead. And rolled in, and I felt like I had a good thing. So what I think you need, the first thing I think you need is a perspective. I think you need to come into the room with an opinion. I think you need to come into the room with something to say, and you need to have, it doesn't need to be unique. You don't have to be like some sort of like icon, or you don't need to be, you don't have to stand out in a way that is like Gaga in a meat suit.
Yeah.
But you have to have a perspective. Right. And you have to have something in you that you have to say through whatever medium it is that you're going to do. You need to have an open ear, and you need to have the ability to listen and respond and react to people, to feedback, to different things. And I think one of the best things I heard regarding taking advice and taking not direction, because you should always listen to your directors and you should do everything that they say because they are your boss. But what is basically like, let us have an open mind, but not so open that our brains fall out. Yeah. And so a perspective and an open mind and an open heart. And I think you need to have, for me, flexibility and resiliency have been sort of what I've considered my hallmarks, which is you have to have a thick skin to do this. Yeah. And also to do, the performance and the music production stuff that you do is there's a lot of this like knock down, bounce back. That's
all it is. It's all mental.
And you have to have a thick skin for it. You have to realize that the comments on your performances, the comments on the work that you do are not reflective of who you are as a person. If I don't get a job, that doesn't mean I suck. Right. It just means that I wasn't right for that job. My favorite thing that my somebody when I was in college told me was, you might walk into a room and you might look like the casting director's ex, and that's the reason you didn't get the job.
100%.
And it's like, all right,
you're never gonna know
that's the big one, is you're never gonna know. Sometimes you get feedback, sometimes, rarely, but sometimes you get feedback, and even then you take that feedback, you incorporate it into what you do, and then you move on. But I keep coming back to the perspective thing. I think it's just important to have a viewpoint, and it's important to present your stuff in a way that is truthful to who you are, to go in. And if you walk out of that room feeling like you did your best work, then that's great. Every audition is an opportunity to perform. Yeah.
That I think that's a shift that I'm dealing with right now as well, is like, or that I've gone through, which is why I feel like I have my footing, whereas I didn't have it before. I felt like I didn't have an opinion. I was just trying to be good. I was just trying. It was like you're looking for acceptance. Yeah. That's what it is. It's like the difference between, I feel like, being successful and then like trying to get there but not wondering why it's not happening or not coming, is because you're trying to be what somebody wants and you're just hoping that you're good enough, rather than being like, I know I'm good. This is the direction I'm going to go in with my audition. This is how I'm going to play this character. Or this is how I'm going to sing this song or whatever. Mm-hmm. And living with the fact that maybe they just don't like that perspective. Yeah. Rather than just trying to be better than somebody else, you have to be like the best version of what you think is good enough. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's give yourself leverage. That's what it is. You have to give yourself leverage and be like, I am great. I am fantastic. I know that. So now it's just
Yeah.
a matter of fact of what choice that I want to go, you know?
And to be able to come in and present that idea to somebody, and to be able to present uh, your version of something to somebody. Now, there are moments, especially in the musical theater world, where what is on the page is gospel, and it's Sondheim. It's Sondheim.
Sondheim.
It's
It's
Sondheim.
Sondheim.
It's Sondheim. You don't get to riff on Sondheim. He's better than you. He's smarter than you.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
he knows what he's doing.
Nobody's doing an Ariana Grande riff in Into the Woods, okay? I'm
Exactly.
sorry.
That's too real. But it's fun fact, by the way, speaking of just like Wicked riffs in general, did you know there's an approved riff list for Wicked?
No.
Yeah, there are riffs they're allowed to do, and there's riffs they're not allowed to do.
Really?
There's an approved riff list. Fun fact.
You know what I heard? That they are thinking about possibly taking that new, because I haven't seen Wicked the movie, don't yell at me, guys. But the new modulation of at the end of Popular, they're thinking about possibly incorporating that onto the stage. Like when they do the key changes on.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're thinking about possibly bringing that onto the stage.
I wouldn't be surprised if that happened.
It's a really good addition.
I haven't heard that.
Yeah.
But I also wouldn't be surprised if there were like some small changes here and there. Shows morph over time.
Yeah.
Whether you kind of like them to or not. Usually not in big ways like that. But I can actually tell you, to cut back to the Come From Away thing, the differences between the Broadway version of that show and the tour one was the Broadway one had a turntable. So part of the stage moved in a full circle.
I love a good turntable.
And Hadestown, Hamilton,
Right. Love a good turntable.
all of the above. But obviously, because it would be costly and scary to take a turntable on tour, we do other versions. So there's a section in the show called the 4-person walk, which is things that you'll never see like in the playbill or anything, but it's like, what are we going to? Oh, we're going to 4-person walk, and everybody knows what it is. Oh, we're going to scattered chairs. Okay, we're going to this. But the 4-person walk would, I believe, have taken place on the turntable, and there's like a whole song that Nick, the British guy, does with Diane, called "Stop the World," that I believe at least partially took place on the turntable. And so the way that for "Stop the World" that we did that was they take all of the chairs, because the whole set is 12 chairs and 3 tables.
Wow.
That's the whole set.
Really?
And like a bunch of costume changes. That's it. By the way, if any of you guys want to see Come From Away but can't make it to any of the shows, there is a pro shot on Apple TV from the Broadway cast.
Wow.
So you can always go back and watch that. I obviously would prefer you come to the show, but you know, there is no substitute for live theater. 100%.
True. Very true.
But we do it by taking all of the chairs and putting them in a row, and then we walk along the tops of the chairs, and it's supposed to be like walking along a cliff, effectively.
Wow.
So there are small changes that have to be made based on the needs of performers and accessibility and different things. There were key changes that were made to the show because Jen Colella, who originated the role of Beverly Bass, has this monster voice, and you change for the needs of the show. Broadway is not a monolith, and Broadway is not a statue. You can change things.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm excited to see kind of where Broadway is headed right now, because I know that there's a lot of things kind of feel up in the air. You would know more than I would, but I just hear kind of rumors, because you're more in it than I am, and all I kind of get is like the 3rd or 4th telephone link.
Yeah.
There's like gossip, and there's people saying this and that and the third, and I'm just like, really? And I just like catch it and keep it moving. But I'm excited to kind of see where it goes. I was shocked to hear that The Notebook was ending as well, because I thought that was like a huge hit.
Notebook's also going to go on tour. It's going to do really well on tour.
Yeah, I figured that was.
It's going to do super well on tour. I have no doubt that thing will sell like a hot damn.
I started, I guess I'm just kind of like touching back into it because I've been doing musical theater auditions, which has been really interesting. I think specifically because even touching back to Wicked, I know like everybody likes to rip on Ariana Grande, me included, when we talk about like the way that her voice has switched up, because like, yes, it is a big deal you do have to change your voice depending upon how you sing. I know that because I was trained in classical.
As was I.
And so, like going from classical voice to then trying to sing contemporary, like my music production stuff is very difficult, which is why a lot of like the people on Glee that tried to have like pop music careers didn't work, because they you have to be a little bit more stylistic in a sense, and you just kind of sound like you're singing show tunes.
There has been one theater person who has had a successful pop career in recent years, and it is Renee Rapp.
Renee Rapp, yeah.
Big ups, Renee Rapp.
Hell yeah. But you know what? You know why I think that is? I think because she loves R&B.
Yeah, I'll buy that.
She loves R&B.
And I have so much love for Renee Rapp. She's so talented.
She's so talented.
Just funny, too.
But you know what? I totally, like, as I'm, like, doing this, I have so much respect for her because it is so difficult. Like, me going through this now, I'm like, it is really hard to kind of switch between placements and you know, your vocal muscles. It is kind of muscle memory. You know, and I get why Ariana Grande had a protector voice. I don't understand what the transatlantic accent had to do with that, but that's, you know, neither here nor there. Because people keep saying, they're like, oh, she had to protect her voice. Her fans are like, they have to protect her voice.
That's not what, okay, anyway.
And I'm like, I totally get that you have to protect your voice. She probably just got, like, you know, her and her, you know, people are calling her whatever. I'm not going to get into it online. I'm not
it is funny. Just what it is different muscle structures, different techniques and all of that. And I have always sort of maintained that if you have a background in healthy vocal production, and I don't mean like music production, but producing sound from your vocal cords in a healthy way, that there is almost nothing you can't do.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just you have to have that technical foundation.
100%.
And if you and the funny thing is, and that doesn't mean that you have to have training. That it helps undoubtedly, but there are some people who come by that honestly and come by it naturally. And I hate them.
But why do you think that people from the Philippines can sing their ass off? That's why, because it's natural. And I have a theory that it just has to do with where they place their language, like phonetically, where they speak from.
That'd be interesting. Because that'd be an interesting thing to examine.
I feel like as a New Yorker, my biggest thing always with all of my voice teachers was like, Diana, you have a locked jaw. You have a locked jaw. And that's because of the way that I talk and the way that I speak and I have coffee and it's like very locked jaw. But getting into my mask was easier for me than some of my classmates because all we do is talk from right here.
Well, I'm sure your belt was ferocious.
Yes. So my mixed belt has become very easy, but it was hard for me because I was switching from classical where everything is like forward and down. And it's like,
and that was I thought I was a bass until college.
Yes. Have
I ever told you what my chest voice tops out at?
No.
My chest tops out at a C5.
Damn.
For the music nerds, you'll understand what it is I'm basically an alto.
Damn. That's crazy.
My like rock force falsetto tops out at like a G sharp 5. She wails.
Wow.
She wails as needed.
But
it's pretty funny.
It's funny though, but also like I'm in classical, I was a high soprano, but I sing like
like
mezzo, alto-y,
lady tenor stuff.
Yeah, like very, you know, so I totally get it. It's completely different.
It's so funny though.
Do you have any final sentiments? Any hot takes that you want to give to end it out? I want to start like this new segment called Fine, I'll say it and give a hot take. That's like what I want my new segment to be. Fine, because I've been saying that a lot lately. I just got a lot of things that I got to get off my chest.
I don't know that I have anything that's kind of like, fine, I'll say it, I haven't been holding this back type thing. But what I sort of, I guess, we've talked about a lot of stuff that sort of is like about, I think if I had to like tie this entire thing today into like one overarching theme, it would be community.
Yeah.
And so I think what it is that like, if I'm doing it from like a fine, I'll say it tone, it would be like, go make your community. And not go find your community. Go make your community. Go out there, and if you, like, introvert, extrovert, whatever, if you extend the olive branch and if you extend the hand, somebody will take it. Somebody will take it. And the biggest thing for me has always been that people always forget that the second half of the phrase trial and error is error.
Right.
And so sometimes it's not going to go perfectly great. And in that moment, the challenge for you is not to then recede into yourself or recede into your room or recede into your echo chamber, whether that's digital or in person. The challenge is then to keep doing it.
Right.
To keep extending that hand, to keep extending that olive branch, and to do that by forcing connection with other people. That only ever is a positive thing. And the more that you can then, once you start doing it, once it becomes a habit, then you can start diversifying it. And when you reach across lines of any kind, and when you diversify your friend groups and you diversify your community, it ultimately ends up as a net positive, not only for you, not only for them, but for, I think, society as a whole.
Hell yeah. World peace.
And that's a really like drawn out way of saying, go out there and make friends, have fun, be yourself.
Hell yeah. And you know what? I'm going to piggyback off of that and be slightly harsher. Fine. I'll say it. Some of you are a little bit too, you thinking that you're going to make friends by sitting in your apartment is selfish, self-righteous. We are not going to come to you. We want to see your faces out there. I want you to be messy. I want to see you punch somebody in the face and then we become friends. Seriously, that's
hardcore shows.
How did we became friends in the bar?
I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I'll leave with you. Diana and I met because she had a show at the coffee shop next door. We sat down next to each other at the bar, and I thought she was hot, which she is, for the record. And so we flirted, and then it turned out that us in a relationship would have been horrible.
Horrific.
It would have been awful.
Really bad.
We would have killed each other.
Would have been really bad.
But we're really great besties.
Really great friends. Really great friends.
Works an absolute treat. And also, like, I never would have met my boyfriend Dano. So
that's so true. So true.
Small positives.
Jordan, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
We talked about so many things.
Seriously.
We talked about world issues. We talked about music. We talked about drinks.
Yeah, I'll shamelessly sort of plug where people can find me.
Please, I want you to shamelessly plug.
Yeah. So again, my name is Jordan Diggory. You can find me at jordandiggory.com. It's JordanDigggory.com, or at Jordan_Diggory on most of the social medias. You are welcome to reach out. I talk to everybody.
Hell yeah. And everybody, please go get a ticket. Yeah. To go see Jordan on tour.
Closest joints in this to New York we're going to be in Schenectady. We're going to be at West Point. We're going to be at a couple places in Connecticut. If you want to check that out, the links and the dates are on my website. And if you want to go directly, I believe it's comefromaway.com.
Send me the link and I'll attach it to the podcast.
To the many things that we're going to be doing here.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Thank you so much. Cheers, thanks. Jordan.
Yep.
Again, everybody, I hope you enjoyed your cup of coffee, your cup of tea, or a martini if you're feeling spicy. And we love you and we'll see you guys next time.
Yeah, we're going to go do shots of Jaeger. See ya.
Yeah. Bye.